Hello and welcome. I am Neferkefri, the Positive Vibes Artist, and today I will be taking you through what I consider to be the top 22 Tombow colors for fall. In this video, I will be showing you an already swatched page of all 22 colors on watercolor paper and also on just plain old typing paper you can get anywhere. And then I will conclude the video by swatching all 22 colors onto Tomoe River Paper. And then what I'll do is I'll line up all three of them and we'll compare to see how the Tombows did on each type of paper and what they look like, because I can tell you, paper matters. So stay tuned. So here are the Tombows we're going to be swatching. I already have them organized. This took forever for me to figure out. I mean, like literally like 2.5 hours or something, but I was having fun because I love colors, you know. And these are some failed experiments here. I did all these just on regular typing paper, just for testing. So I could, you know, fine tune it. And then I came up with this. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to list the numbers right up front for those of you who may not have time to watch the rest of the video, but I would very much appreciate if you'd stay and watch till the end. And also, please consider subscribing if you enjoy my content at all. Thank you. Now, I started off with the earth tones. So we have 098, 0992, 027, 228, 977, 947, 969, 979, 676, 757, 837, 847, 817, 772. I then removed number 803 because it just looked too bright. So then we go on to 873, 912, 946, 993, 985, 905, and finally 885. And those, in my opinion, are the best jewel tone, slightly muted earth tone colors, and a few somewhat bright colors to be used for fall. So these are the colors I'm going to be using. And now I'll show you what they look like already swatched out and labeled on watercolor paper. This is my 2026 Hobonichi Cousin. This is what I'll be using for my everyday planner and daily journaling. Now, since I took about 2.5 hours to choose these fall colors, I want to be sure I can refer to them again for next fall. So I'm going to go ahead and put my Tomoe River Paper swatches directly into my 2026 Hobonichi Cousin here. That way I won't lose them. Because, you know, when you put stuff on pieces of paper like this, 9 times out of 10, within about a week, it's going to be lost. Happens to me all the time. And I just have to learn to stop doing this. But it's also important for me to use up scraps of paper. So, I don't know. It's kind of like a two-edged sword, I guess. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the back. There are some blank grid pages back here that are perfect for swatching. I already went through my pen test here. And if you'd like to see a flip through of the Hobonichi Cousin as to how it's laid out, and also take a look at how I tested these pens and these inks, that card should be up here. Sometimes I forget to include them. I apologize for that. Whenever I forget, they're always linked below in the description. So if you don't see it up here and I'm pointing at nothing, just look at the description. It'll be down there somewhere. So this was my pen test page, and I still left some room to test some more inks. Over here, I've got a watercolor test page. I also include this in that video, linked in the card. And so I'm going to test my Tomoe River. I'm going to test my Tombows on this Tomoe River paper. Well, I don't know. I've got 22 to do. How many pages do we have? Oh, just another one. Let's see. I think I'll just do them on this page. So let me find my Fudenosuke pen that is also made by Tombow. And by the way, I am not in any way, shape, or form, or in my wildest dreams, affiliated in any way with Tombow. I bought all this stuff with my own money, just so you know. Now, I always write across the top of the page what I am testing here. So this is going to be Tombow dual brush pens. I also want to do them for the seasons, so I'm trying to think of how to lay out this page. Well, there are 4 seasons, but I have 22 markers here. Let me go ahead and label the page first. I am just doing my writing here in real time. This isn't sped up or anything. Oops, ran off the paper there. Okay, now I need a ruler. I'm trying to think how to divide the page for, you know, summer, fall, winter, spring. I want to keep the rest of this page blank because I will be testing other brands of watercolors on this paper. They react differently from brand to brand. I'll tell you what consistently does well on Tomoe River Paper, in case you're curious. Kiritake Ganzi Tombai, or Tombi. How's it pronounced? Kiritake Ganzai Tombi, I believe. That consistently does well on Tomoe River Paper, and it's a Japanese-made watercolor. It's mass-produced. You can find it easily on Amazon. If you're interested, I do have a few Amazon affiliate links below if you'd like to check those out. And plus, it helps to support my channel, and I would very much appreciate that. I also have all my discount links down there as well for journaling and art supplies. So, in how to do this, because I don't really want to use the back of this page either. Oh, I know what I'll do. I will tip in a page here, so I don't have to use this page. I have Tomoe River Paper unused in another planner. I will just tip it in. 5 1/2, 5 3/4. That's going to be about here's going to be the middle. That doesn't look like a middle, does it? I can't do math. 5 3/4. So 2 1/2 is half of 5. Oh my God, my poor brain. 2 1/2 is 5, I know that much. And so half of 3/4 would be this much. So it's right here. Yeah, I thought that was a little off. Okay. Just have to bear with me. And then I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line. Watch it not be straight even with the grid, because that's just me. Well, that's pretty good. And then I will not go across. Let's see, I'm going to do, okay, since this starts in January, I'm going to do winter, spring, summer, fall. So I have to tip in a sheet for the fall. I'll just do it on the back of this one. I'm not going to make this complicated for myself. Why? You know, why? So that was what again? Okay. This will be for summer and fall. And then each one gets its own column. Yeah, that got on my ruler. This is why when I do videos, because I have 3 channels, none of which are, well, 2 of them are kind of related, but I have a True Tales of the Paranormal is one of my channels, and that's where I talk about my own experiences and experiences of my family and some of my friends. Then I have Magical Musings, which is all about my witchy and tarot interest and business. I've been a professional reader since 1995. So I talk about, you know, spiritual stuff on that channel. And sometimes when I do the videos and I look down at my hands, I'm like, oh crap, that's from my art video I did this morning. You know, and I'm doing a reading and you know, the camera is in close on the cards. So of course you can have a good view of my fingers. And I'm just going to take my typewriter swatch here just so I can make sure not to make any mistakes. Famous last words. This is 098. No, it's not. See, already. Oh my God. I'm so sad. Okay, here we go. This would be 098, right? Yes. This is 098. Now what I'm going to do, I'll put the number over here. So, oh wait, that's going to be winter. Yeah, I was about to screw up again, wasn't I? Winter, spring, summer, fall. Okay. Here we go. I do one like that. And I'm just going to do a little square. And I've got my magic cauldron here and my water brush. And I'm just going to dab it on here just a little bit. Oh, that looks pretty, doesn't it? And then I'm going to just dab my brush on this paper to clean it. So we have the first one, and this again is 098. All right. And then we continue on with 992. I am checking my scrap paper here to be sure I'm not screwing up again. And again, just dragging the marker through. 992. Wow, this color, when you write with it, doesn't really show up on this paper very well, but it's because it's a, you know, cream color paper. Also, as you swatch your Tombows, you may notice some of them blend out beautifully and some do not. I've noticed that in my set. Some of the reds, a couple of the greens, and like maybe 2 of the browns and like 1 or 2 blues, they don't like to blend. You blend them and you can still see lines that you made with the marker when you laid the color down. So it's something to consider that you may want to practice with your Tombows first and make a swatch page in your journal just to be sure all the colors are going to look decent on that paper that you'd like to use on it. And if you find those that don't look good, well, by all means, don't use them. This is number 228. 228 is the numeric prefix for my cell phone. Okay, now why aren't these? Oh, okay, I see what I did. Then I'll take this one next. See, that's looking really nice, isn't it? These are all seeming to do really good. See, the reason I didn't want to swatch them on here because I wanted to be able to see if they would ghost, but I already know ahead of time going in, this particular part of the color spectrum for these fall colors won't ghost. Because I've used them on this paper before. Of course, not in this particular journal, but I have used them. Now let's see. 977. And then again, blend it out a little bit. So I just want to be sure it is going to blend. I'm gonna go to the next one. And you notice how I flipped them back and forth like this? I did that for two reasons. One, I could get one extra Tombow in each of these drawers, and that completed the whole set of 22. And number two, so I would remember when doing my swatches where I pulled the pen out from, so I could put it right back where it belongs. This is 947. So are y'all excited about fall? I sure am. Fall is my all-time, hands down, favorite season. I've loved fall since I was a little kid. I'm originally from Northern Illinois. And if you saw in the intro of my video, the t-shirt I'm wearing, Chicago Cubs, I am a huge, huge Chicago Cubs fan. This is number 969. I am a third-generation fan. My daughter is fourth generation, even though she was born and raised in Texas. Because the Astros games don't play in my house, okay? Sorry if there's any Astro fans watching. I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just the way I am. I am completely, absolutely loyal to my Cubbies. 679. I loved it when they were still both teams, the Astros and the Cubs, were in the National League because, did I just mess up? Yes, I did. That's a 9, not an 8. 679. When they were both in the National League, because we used to be able to go to downtown Houston and watch the games. It was awesome. We'd go in all our Cubs gear, and I've had pizza thrown at me. I've had beer dumped on me. Yeah, got those people thrown out of the game. The kid who threw pizza at me was like around 12, so I didn't do anything about that. I just glared at his parents, and they reprimanded him on the spot. Plus, you know, it didn't hurt. But having your beer dumped over your head from behind is not cool, especially when you're wearing a $200 Ryan Sandberg jersey, team jersey that your parents got you way, 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 way back in the day when Rhino was still playing. He has unfortunately passed away this past July of 2025. Man, I cried. I cried for like a week. I'm not kidding. He is one of my all-time favorite players, him and Ernie Banks. I had the privilege of meeting Ernie Banks. This is 757. This purpley one was 676. Now we're doing 757. I met Ernie in 2010, I think. My husband surprised me by taking me to a baseball memorabilia show at NRG Stadium here in Houston. And I had no idea. I had no idea he was going to do that. And once we got there, and I realized that that's what we were going to go see there, because they had a couple of other events there too at the time. I was just all, why? I'm not into memorabilia shows. This is 837. I am currently swatching. And he was like, well, you know, we went in, right? We're in there. We're amongst a bunch of strangers. And he's like, I brought you because I got you a ticket, and you're going to get to meet and get a ball signed by Ferguson Jenkins. He was my favorite pitcher growing up. Now, as an adult, my favorite Cubs pitcher of all time is Greg Maddux. Of course, that is an absolute no-brainer. He's one of the true greats in the game. But I started to almost cry. And there were all these people, and it was right at the entrance, you know, and they had the list of that day's events there. And I wasn't even really looking at it because I was just freaking out. I was going to get to meet Ferguson Jenkins. And then he says, and I got you another ticket. I'm like, another ticket? Like, for what? And he says, you're going to get to meet and get a ball signed by Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks is my hero. Growing up, he set such a wonderful example for the kids, and such a wonderful player, and he always had such a bright, optimistic attitude. And I mean, he coined the terms that Cub fans use to this day. They refer to Wrigley Field as the friendly confines. That was coined by Ernie. And there's the saying, you know, the ball game is so much fun. Well, let's play two. Let's play two was also Ernie. And I totally flipped out and started bawling like a baby. In front of all these strangers, and they're walking around me and giving me this really wide berth, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, oh, you know, and he's like, calm down, calm down. I'm like, what do you mean, calm down? And the thing is, you know how sometimes some dreams, I'm going to start to make myself cry, how some dreams are so very special and precious. This is number 847, previous one 837, that you don't share them with anyone because you're afraid. You're afraid that if you talk about the dream to anyone, if you even say it out loud, it'll never come true. At least that's how I felt. That's how I felt regarding my dream. Yeah, I'm going to cry. Of one day being able to meet Ernie Banks, because another reason he's so special to me, when I was 6 years old, he was still playing for the Cubs, and he was our shortstop. And I wrote him a letter. And in that letter, I told him I wanted to go to college, but I was only just in first grade, and that I would be I would be only the second person on my dad's side of the family to go to college, and I would be the first person on my mom's side. And that his bright attitude in playing the game and everything was so inspirational to me. And I told him, oh, those are bleeding together. Oh, well, but they blend nicely. That was 817. I told him that, you know, your example is just, you know, so wonderful. And I ended up by saying, you know, God bless you, and I pray for you every day to do good in the game. And, you know, I'm a 6-year-old kid, you know, I'm just writing whatever. My first fan letter. And let's see, this one is not showing up with the writing. It is 772. So I sent off the letter, and he sent back an autographed picture, and you can tell that the signature part of the picture, his signature on there, was like machine printed or machine stamped or something. But then over it, on top of it, because I think he had like best wishes Ernie Banks on it. I could go check. I have it in my stuff. But on top of it, he wrote, keep hitting those books. And I took that picture with me when I went off to college at Northwestern University and did my undergrad work in anthropology. This is number 873. And every time I was discriminated against, treated like crap by the professors and the students because I was a poor Mexican who was told by several I did not belong at Northwestern. Can you imagine? I mean, growing up, I dealt with a lot of racism. You don't see so much racism these days against Hispanics, but back when I was a kid, growing up in northern Illinois, I grew up in Waukegan, and we didn't have a high Hispanic population there. And until the 4th grade, I was the only Hispanic kid in my elementary class. This is number 912. So I had to deal with a lot of crap at Northwestern. And every time something awful happened and I'd, be crying in my room and be telling my roommate, I can't deal with this crap, I can't deal with this crap. And then I would look up at Ernie's picture and I would ask myself, what would Ernie do? Seriously, as a black man in 1950s America playing professional baseball? Because Jackie Robinson is the player who opened the door for black Americans to join the sport. Okay, did I just goof? No, I didn't. It's right here. This is number 912. So I would, and I would tell myself, Ernie would say, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's just deal with it. And so I would. And I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology in, well, I won't tell you the year. But anyway, this is 993, which doesn't show up very well on Tomoe River Paper, but there you go. And then I went off to grad school at the University of California, Santa Barbara, which was even worse than Northwestern. I had 2 professors tell me, instead of being in class, you need to be out in the fields or something. It was something like that. Or no, it was people like you don't go to classes. You work out in the fields. You work on the farm. I'm like, excuse the fuck out of me? What? Yeah, a professor told me that. This is 985. And I was treated by several people in the anthropology department there like I didn't belong. They didn't think I belonged there. Well, again, this is 985. I think I said that. I took that picture of Ernie with me to Santa Barbara, stuck it up on my bulletin board like I had it at Northwestern and like how I had it in my bedroom growing up in Waukegan, Illinois. And I would look at it every time crap happened to me, and I'd be like, I already know what Ernie would do. He would just deal and move on. And so that's what I did. And I ended up graduating with my master's degree in anthropology from UC Santa Barbara. This is 905. A little bit bright for fall, but I kind of wanted a handful of bright colors to kind of punch up my pages. Here's the last one. And then I took that picture to the University of Texas at Austin, where I was treated really well. I have to say, no one gave me a hard time about being a Hispanic or telling me I should be working in the fields instead of being in class. Nothing like that. My professors were stellar at UT Austin. I loved all of them. All of them were amazing people. A few of whom are no longer with us, unfortunately, but people get old, stuff happens. This is number 885. So I didn't have too much going on in terms of issues with people in my department, but the roommates, oh my goodness. It was high drama with the roommates, let me tell you. I had one that was literally a closet alcoholic, literally. I found her stash one day and I was like, this is why she behaves erratically. Yeah, she had several bottles of vodka hidden under her dirty clothes in our closet. I had another roommate who unfortunately tried to harm herself. And if we were not there, I was rooming with two other young ladies at the time. If we hadn't been there and been able to stop her, she probably would have succeeded. So that was really scary. And I had other not so serious roommate issues, and now I can't get this drawer back into my cheeky Tombow plastic box here. But here are the swatches on Tomoe River Paper. And I think they turned out just great. And there you go. I really love how all the watercolor blends worked out. They all look so pretty. Tombow markers, they have such pretty colors in their set. They really do. But there are the swatches for fall. And now I'm going to take all three and hold them side by side once this dries. And I'll come back in a couple minutes here and we'll compare the look of the Tombows on three different kinds of paper. As luck would have it, happy mail. My sterling ink B6 Slim Common Planner for the full year arrived just now. I'm going to go ahead and swatch these Tombow markers on this paper as well, even though it is also Tomoe River paper. I've noticed it has some inconsistencies, let's just say, so I want to see how they look in this. I will be using this as my social media and my Substack planner, so I will go ahead and swatch them off camera so I don't bore you with that, and then I'll come back with this all swatched and show you what these colors look like on watercolor paper. Here are the colors dried. They look positively beautiful. However, yeah, I knew the colors up here wouldn't bleed through because I've used them on Tomoe River paper before. These just ghost, but these darker pinks and purples all bleed through, and I am like super disappointed right now. All these colors right here. I don't know. You know, that was the problem in the 2025. And was it also the 2024? I don't remember. Definitely the 2025 Tomoe River paper. I think 2024 as well. The inconsistency in the Sans Zen version of Tomoe River paper. So I can see it's still kind of being a problem a little bit, at least in swatching the Tombows. But it'll be interesting to see what these look like in the B6 Slim. But before I do that, one quick thing. I forgot to finish telling you about Ernie Banks. So, you know, I graduated UT Austin with my doctorate. And again, I had that picture with me the entire time. And then since all of my hard times in college were over, I put the picture up, put it in a safe place, and went about my life. Now, as I was saying, you know how some dreams are so precious and so special that you think if you lend a voice to them, they'll never come true. And, you know, and this is one of those crazy dreams that a little kid has, that, oh, I wish I could meet my hero and tell them face to face what a positive impact they've had on my life, how I look up to them and their example. And I always felt that way about Ernie Banks. I have not felt that way about anybody else, just him. I never told my husband that was one of my fondest dreams. It's that special and that private to me. I never shared it with him or anyone. It was just between myself and God. That's it. So when he got me that ticket for Ernie Banks to sign my baseball and I get to meet Ernie Banks, it's like my brain exploded. I don't know. I can't even tell you how it made me feel. And so we went looking at other stuff, mainly so I could calm down and kind of gather my thoughts and figure out what am I going to say to Fergie and Ernie. What am I going to say? And Ferguson Jenkins, the pitcher for the Cubs during the 70s, which was like the worst time in Cubs history, pretty much, when they lost practically all the time. But so I finally gathered my thoughts enough together to where I knew what I was going to say, and I rehearsed it. My daughter was with us, and I rehearsed it with her, and she was like, "Yeah, Mom, that sounds really good. Now let's go and you get to meet your hero." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" And she's like, "Mom, don't start crying again, please." She was so embarrassed. Oh my God. And so we go and we wait in line, and the line wasn't too long. I think once we got in line, it only took us maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to get to the front of the line. So then it's my turn, and my daughter grabs my phone, and she says, "Okay, go, Mom. I'm going to record the whole thing." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So I went up and I introduced myself, and he says, "It's such a pleasure to meet you." And he shook my hand. He took my hand in both of his to shake it. And then he asked me about me and where am I from? And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, wow, Waukegan. Yeah, so you're a North Sider." And I'm like, "Third generation. My daughter was born in Texas." And I pointed to my daughter, and he waved at her. And I said, "She's fourth generation, even though she was born here." He's like, "That's the way to raise them." And I'm like, "Darn straight." And he was so personable and just so ultra friendly. I mean, he made you feel like he's known you your whole life. And he asked me questions. And after he was done asking me about my life, and I introduced him to my husband who was next to me and all this stuff, and he wanted to know how we met. And I'm just like, this is so surreal, Here I am talking to my hero, and I'm talking just about me. And then he got a ball, and he was getting ready to sign it. And I said, "Just a second." He says, what is it? And I said, "I've got something really important I want to tell you." And he set the ball down on the table, set the pen down, and he put his hands like in prayer position, and he looked me in the eye. He says, "What is it?" Complete 100% attention. And it kind of threw me a little bit. I thought he'd be trying to rush me, get to the next person. He's been sitting there all day. He was like in his 80s, I think, at the time, early 80s, I think. And, you get tired sitting in a chair all day. And I told him the story I just shared with you about his picture. I made Ernie Banks cry. Before I was even finished, I had just finished the Northwestern, the first section of the story about Northwestern. He's crying. And I say to him, "But that's not all." And he looks so shocked. He's like, "No, there's more?" He's really fighting to hold back the tears. I said, "Yes, there is." Meanwhile, his assistant was next to him at the table, right? She had started filming me. I'm not sure when. I just noticed at that moment when I was wrapping up about Northwestern, she had her phone out, trained on Ernie and I. And there was a man off to Ernie's right, to my left, who had been handing him the baseballs to sign for fans. When I got through the story of Santa Barbara and what those ugly people told me, he was crying. And by the time all was said and done, Ernie was still crying, his assistant was crying, the man who handed him the baseballs was crying, and everyone within earshot of my story who was behind me in line were crying. It was like around 8 people were in tears. And the funniest thing is Ferguson Jenkins was at the next table over, and he had the perfect vantage. He could see everything going on at Ernie's table. And he caught my attention. He kind of waved his hand like this, and I looked over at him. He says, "Are you coming here next?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Uh-oh." But I didn't have anything, touching to tell him, just that he was my favorite pitcher growing up, only to be supplanted by the great Greg Maddux. And he was like, "Yeah, for good reason." I'm like, "Yeah, man, but you pitched for a losing team all those years, and you were fantastic." and he thanked me. He was very nice. Well, Ernie, after we were done talking and everything, see, if you wanted a picture with your favorite player, you had to buy a separate ticket. So there was a ticket for signing balls, there was a ticket for getting a picture, and I think there was a ticket for something else, maybe signing baseball cards. I don't remember now, but it was like 3 things that you could pay for. And my husband had only gotten me the signed ball. That was it. And then Ernie says to me when I'm all done, with my story, he says, "Can I have a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Wait, what?" I mean, I think I actually even said that to him. "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Please, may I have a picture taken with you?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, "Of course." And so we took the picture, and his assistant took a picture. The guy handing him the baseballs took a picture. My daughter took a bunch of pictures. And so, yeah, that was how I met my hero. That's what happened. And it was the fondest dream come true. I've been so blessed. I've had my 3 top dreams come true. Was able to tell Ernie Banks to his face exactly how he impacted my life. I went to England. Always wanted to go. Went there in 1989 when I was 22. And then dream number 3, I got to see Paul McCartney in concert. And I was happy with that in 1989. But after that, I saw him 5 more times over the decades. So, yeah, I mean, I have led a very blessed life, so I just wanted to share that with you. And now you're going to see what the Tombows look like in the Sterling Ink B6 Slim Common Planner for 2026. All right, this is what the Sterling Ink looks like. Still a little bit damp, but the colors all look gorgeous. And now we're going to flip it over and see. Hey, it's not too bad. What? This is supposed to be the same paper that is in the Hobonichi Cousin. Let me get that swatch page out for comparison. Okay, here are the fronts of each page. You can see it looks gorgeous on both papers. And then we go to flip it over. Let me do it like this. Interesting. The same colors had a tendency on the Sterling Ink Tomoe River Paper to bleed through, but they bled through a lot over here in the Hobonichi Cousin. Well, these swatches are slightly bigger. I probably used just a teeny bit more water over here. That's probably the reason for the variation that we're seeing here. So just keep in mind, if you're using Tomoe River paper, that the reds and the pinks may tend to bleed through to the other side on those papers. And now we have, of course, the plain typing paper. I had to trim it down because I was using the other side to clean off my water brush. And now the reveal for the watercolor paper, and this is an Artist Loft's watercolor journal. It's 140 pound, 300 GSM watercolor paper. It's good for practicing on, it's good for making swatch pages. Here are the same colors in the same order. And look at how much brighter they are on the watercolor paper. And here you can take a screenshot if you like. I think that they, by far, look better on watercolor paper. The plain typing paper, they look nice on there, but you can't blend it with water because you'll make a hole in your paper. And also this paper tends to soak up a bit of the pigment from the markers, even if you don't press hard. It's just the nature of typing paper, that's all. Whereas on the Tomoe River Paper, you get really pretty colors on the front like we saw, but then you get some bleed through. So it's just something to keep in mind, and that's why we do these swatch pages. So you find out what works in our journals and what doesn't. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you found it useful. Please give me a like and a follow and a subscribe. And I'll catch you next time. This is Nefer Kefri, the Positive Vibes Artist, and I'm wishing you all a very blessed day ahead.